Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and hopefully I am louder than that nonsense outside. That guy with that giant hose over there. I don't know what he's doing, nor do I know the kind of associations he's looking for, but I have a feeling he's up to no good. We are here on day 191 of the classroom, and up to no good because I can't stand that white noise is what I can't stand. I hate white noise. That's exactly what I'm feeling about my friend who always had white noise in the background. Somebody else trying to tell me I'm white noise? I don't think so. Okay, so there's our white noise creator over there. Getting some job done with some disinfectant and some hose that's about 28 feet. Who knows what's going on? All I'm saying is I hate white noise. So much so I'm thinking about not reading. Because that's not there's all that noise in the background. Right now, Lucy, enough. But see, we can control her. It's the nonsense outside we can't control. Lucy, she can control herself, by the way. She's that kind of a dog. Yeah, I said dog, that's you. Okay, so finding my glasses, first of all. There's a pair. There's the other ones. Got them. Okay. We are getting started with Robert Drinan. He is a reverend. There's his picture. He was born November 15th, 1920, died January 28, 2007. Was a Roman Catholic priest who played a unique and historic role in American public life as a lawyer, law school teacher, opponent of war, advocate of human rights, and as a congressman who recommended the impeachment of President Richard M. Nixon. Oh, did you see all those presidents at his funeral? I mean, I know it was a while ago, but there's a great picture of all those presidents revering him. How many were at your funeral, Bob? He was dean of Boston College Law School. Who were you protecting in Boston? And a law professor at Georgetown University Law Center for the last 26 years. Can't see a reason to change anything in the Catholic Church, can we? Dryman's consistent support of government anti-poverty programs that included making sure that they were getting lots of capital. Included abortion access, drew significant opposition from church leaders throughout his political career. Why? I was youngest of 3 people in a family that was Catholic in an overwhelmingly Catholic community in the 1930s. I had 6 years with the nuns in parochial schools, and then public schools. I went to Boston College, so I knew about the Jesuits. You don't decide to become a priest. It's grace from God. Christ at the Last Supper said, "You have not chosen me, I have chosen you." A lot of people reject the invitation. Remember the story in the gospel of the rich young man. Christ said, "Go and serve the poor." And the man walked away because he was very rich. Well, I wasn't very rich, and I was lucky that everything conspired that I did become a Jesuit. To live the life of apostolate to develop the mystic theology and to be a scholar and an academic and not to be just a parish priest, though that is wonderful, but to be a thinker for the church. That's what the Jesuits have done for 5,000 years. That was attractive to me. I made a very rational and difficult, doesn't sound too much about poverty, but okay. I made a very rational and difficult decision when I joined the Jesuits. It was giving up marriage, giving up my will. That's joining the priesthood. When I was in college, the questions were, should I do it? Do I really believe this? Ultimately, you say, yes, I believe this, and it's important that I become a priest. It's sheer faith. When the apostles were approached by Christ and he said, come with me, they went. Not sure what all that means. To become a Catholic and to be a priest, you commit yourself to social justice. It doesn't sound anywhere like you have, other than the words that I just read. Even before God, you look to the poor. You'll find God in the poor. Christ shows that when he goes to the poor and knows those who are in difficulty, the Good Samaritans. St. Francis of Assisi divinized poverty. Okay, so divinized made it like divine. This is where you find God more than anywhere else. I had this invitation to run for Congress in 1970, and before that, I was not political at all. I'm an activist of social justice because I believe. No, you're not an activist of social justice because you believe. There are other reasons. Because you act. The life of faith means that you're promoting justice, and if you believe in social justice, you also believe in faith. These are inseparable. The first commandment and the second commandment go together, and the first commandment says, there's a little bug here. You love God with all your heart, and the second says you love man. They are inseparable. You love others as you love yourself. They are inseparable, maybe to you. I mean, that's kind of the manifest destiny kind of whole thing. Some things are inseparable for you. They are inseparable, and Christ meant that. And some centers in the church didn't quite see the connection. But Vatican II said more than ever before that we believe in the poor. That is the central tenet. The church is not this visible thing that we see with bishops and so on. The church is the mystical body. It's the bride of Christ. If God has weak people running it, so be it. The Polish Pope apologized for 92 terrible things that the church did through the centuries. The Inquisition, the Crusades, the persecution of the Jews, all those things. And they were done by fallible men. I assume that we can expect more mistakes to be made. I know a few bishops who are good people. They were chosen for this position of leadership by their peers, and they recognize that, especially today in America, we don't like authority. We just don't blindly follow. We are an anti-authoritarian society, which is a good feature. Except for, because now we blindly follow. The church has made all types of mistakes, and the church is more perfect now in many ways than the church in history. The Pope, with whom St. Ignatius had to negotiate for establishment of the Jesuits, welcomed the Jesuits and said famously, "The thinkers of God are here." The Pope had 4 children, and he appointed 2 of his nephews to be cardinals. But St. Ignatius saw the Pope and said, "I want to form the Jesuits." And he had the good sense to say that the Jesuits were a whole new spiritual force. You know, here's the thing about the Catholic Church and all of this mention of mysticism without even batting an eye are these factions in the Catholic Church that I have gone to Catholic school and I have studied and I looked at the Catechism of Catholic Church, of the Catholic Church and all kinds of things. And you know what I can't understand? Your factions. I don't know who the hell the Jesuits are. I don't know that compared to Franciscans. Why did St. Francis start the Jesuits when you have the Franciscans? Are Franciscans nuns? Why do you have that? And that's only, what about the one that begins with the B? The Bereans. What about those? What the hell is that? The Bisquics. I don't know. You're up for ridicule, if you ask me, with all these factions. It's crazy. And by the way, nobody knows what they mean. Sounds like a Illuminati to me. That's what that sounds like. Mystic. Nobody knows the names. You'll never get behind the yada, yada, yada. Nobody wants to see what's under your robe. Get over it. Can you hear that motherfucking white noise back there? Sorry, kid. I think I got rid of it. And by the way, the church should be a visible thing. By the way, it should be. That's kind of what we're expecting. Let me see the visible action of the church as a social activist. We have expected priests and bishops to be wonderful and generous, and generally they are. But when we see somebody abusing authority, we, especially Americans, are very sensitive to that. This country was established to protest the abuse of authority, and that's in our bones, is a good thing. Now, we protest injustice. Pay attention, Bishop. Don't be angry at the whole church. All right, I'll start with you. Talk and pray and say, this is the church of God and it is making mistakes. How can we change it? Stop saying the Pope's infallible. We'll just start right there. You can pray and it changes things. It might change the mind. No, I think we pray to have a relationship with God. What you're doing as a criminal, that's your responsibility to change. Not that I'm saying, Bishop, yada, yada, that you're a criminal. You can pray and it changes things. It might change the minds of the Pope. Who knows? Don't leave the church. That's a profound mistake. Access to abortion is another division in the church. Everybody is pro-life, but the adamant pro-life people can get very ugly sometimes. They say we have to recriminalize abortion. That's wrong. It wouldn't work. Women on Medicaid can't get any financial assistance. They're not as fortunate as women who have their own health insurance and who can get abortions. It's just basically unfair to poor people. If we had a perfect plan, would there be fewer than 40 million abortions around the world? Can we educate? Phone rings. That's the Pope calling, telling me to shut up. Oh my gosh, how reminiscent is that of philosophical classroom? Because when I took a break, the phone rang. I think the Pope was telling me to shut up. Who's the Pope? I know I called a few people the Pope. I've called a few people the Pope. I called my husband Jesus Christ. I think with all that white noise up there, they're trying to mischaracterize me is what I think that they're trying to do. And I just think that that's just another disgusting element of whatever you want to call that faction of disgusto. God speaks to us in many ways, and I have been talking lately and writing about the Abrahamic religions, and that Muhammad in AD 615 said that God has spoken to mankind, Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, and that Muhammad is the last prophet. God has spoken. Well, for a long time, we weren't very nice to the Jews and the Muslims, but they were in the same tradition. God spoke to them. God is speaking to every soul in diverse ways, and do they resist? Yeah, we are geniuses at resisting grace. Now, see, those sound like some of my words. It is not entirely different from a family at Christmas or Thanksgiving. There are all types of people in the family. It also sounds like my words at Early Birds today. I had a mass in Boston the day after Christmas for all the deceased members of the Drennan family. Everybody came and we mentioned them, and that bond brings us together. You are not supposed to be really fond of some of these characters, but everybody has their virtues. I am fascinated by the face. Is that true? I am fascinated by the face of all the others. I don't quite take to Buddhism very much, but I made a retreat with Buddhists 4 years ago. They let us in on the Buddhist way to pray, and that was very enlightening. They said God is everywhere and that he is trying to speak to us, and we are our own worst enemy because we do not want to listen. I don't say the same prayer every morning. Vocal prayer is highly recommended, but you use the vocal prayer to have thoughts of your own. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked with favor on his lowly servant. Just say that. Now, those are hard words to say. I have to say, you know what? When I said, I know Jesus in me, I know Christ in me, I find those words for other people to say very difficult. I know who Christ is in me. I know how he is working in me. It is not the same way he works in you. And nobody's saying you should be working like me. Nobody's saying that. You have your own diverse talents and your own skills. But to say, I know who Christ is in me, and say it with meaning, not just here to say it and repeat it on this video, but have said it to somebody in an intimate conversation because it is sincere. That is not easy to say. And that is basically what this bishop's prayer is. So, I'm sorry, I have a general inclination to have disrespect for bishops. So I'm going to say it again. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. That is not easy to say. It's not easy to say for an atheist. It's not easy to say for somebody who feels that they have been dissed by God. It doesn't feel good for somebody whose conscience is weighted heavy and yet has prayed for redemption. That's not, those people can't say, my heart proclaims the greatness of the Lord. They can't say it. If you are vengeful towards God, you cannot say the words, my soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit, you might be able to say in Catholic churches, if you're humming along, but when you have really great revenge in your heart towards God and circumstances, or circumstances and then God, whichever came first for you, the people who still have hatred towards good things, they cannot say, my soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God, my Savior, for he has looked with favor on his lowly servant. See, to me, my words are, I know Christ in me. I know he's doing good work. I know I'm his servant. I know that I rejoice in that. Right? So many blessed words. I'm sorry I disrespected you. I did. But I'm only thinking they're my words, so I'm only admiring my words. But they could be his words. And I could have stole them. I could have read them and stole them. Easy peasy to have done. Because I do remember commenting on these things a lot. So it would have been very easy for me to have said, I don't know. I pray all the time. I live in the world of God, and you do not need words for God. The answer doesn't necessarily come to me. That's the mystery of God. He's not going to make it easy if you're not clear. What do you really want? Be careful what you wish for, right? Standing in the presence of God silently, or taking time away for prayer, but being silent in your prayer really does give God an opportunity to say things to you, right? You do not need words, and the answers don't necessarily come. I have felt that, but I do feel like sometimes standing in silence, they more often come in prayer. Right? Knowing that you are going to God in prayer and being silent and then not resisting. What was that? Yeah, we are geniuses at resisting grace. We're geniuses at resisting grace. So when we go to God in silence, we feel humbled, right? Like, shut up and listen for Christ's sake, which is probably what God is saying. For my son's sake, shut up and listen. Right? I'll shut up and listen for my son's sake any day of the week. But he's not saying anything. Give me some answers. Gee, idiot. And so the sentence here is annoying. He's not going to make it easy if you're not clear. What? Why not just fucking make it clear and then easy? Because you need to be clear about what your wants and needs are, and the differences, and when they cross over, when you really have a great want that is in God's interest and the interest of others, and that is what's driving you, those kinds of heady things. We agonize. What shall we do? The best way of prayer is just to take the gospel or to take anything in the scriptures. If you feel distracted, you cannot really pray. So just read these things. I read these every day at different times. Whenever you have the mood to do so, whenever you can, or whenever you just start to think, I want to talk to God or about God. It just becomes a habit that you're praying all of the time. Not with words, that is the lowest. It is a good prayer, but as the lowest form, you can speak without words and you remember things. So you are grasping for anything that will bring your mind back to God. It is just non-variable communication. And does God always answer your prayers? We do not. We do not know. We do not know. I misread that. And more and more year after year, it becomes more mysterious. And I didn't misread that, I swear. It becomes more, we do not know. And more and more year after year, it becomes more mysterious. It does. And that's what gets scary about it. Because you are being exposed by your humbleness to God, the power and greatness of him. And if you want to give him the middle finger, you don't have any need to see his power or greatness or shut up in prayer before him. Right? Yeah, we're geniuses at resisting grace. Everybody is a mystic deep down, and they want to find God somehow. Sometimes you meet lonely people, even well-educated ones, who just reject the church. They have not found God. It is wonderful the ways in which people search for God. That's true. In the Catholic tradition, we say the Bible was written and inspired by God, but there is a big dispute. Must you believe that Adam and Eve was really in a garden? No, this is a metaphor. But these evangelicals just say strict interpretation. I'm not merely a Catholic. I'm a believer. I believe in God. I believe in the God of Abraham and a monotheistic tradition. Me too. You go. I look everywhere for wisdom. Me too. What does it mean to be Catholic? We absorb everything. We find God everywhere. We're more akin to the Native Americans, aren't we? A prayer is a response to God's presence, and that this nice priest gives you good stuff for your book. This is why the most exalted prayer is always the liturgy, and the prayer arising from the unity of people where God's presence mysteriously abides. I do believe in unity, and but I first believe in the unity of the family and having that family foundation, and this motherfucking splitting up of families is just bullshit. It is really, really disturbing. There are people who relate to the unsung, to the poor who just believe, and maybe they believe after a struggle. Everybody has a struggle to stay in the church and to believe these things. It just does not come easily, depending upon how God tempts you. But the church is so rich, and faith is everywhere. I think that's good. I was thinking about reading another one. It's not that long. It is Thursday, so we're going to our 3 days off. So I feel like being generous and giving you something a little bit more. And then, thinking about ending this book, because if we do one at a time, it really is difficult for me to get through this book. But nevertheless, it's easy for somebody to pick up where I left off, if necessary. Right? This is Dr. Annette Feravich. I'm doing my thing. This is what I do. So pretty much a philosophical classroom for all 3 classrooms, but we only have a half a day. But it was hard work. It's hard work trying to continue adjusting your thinking while reporting what you're thinking, which is a measure of thinking, by the way. It's I don't know, called Think and Report or something like that. It actually really is. It really is. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're thinking. And guess who's here to tell you exactly what she's thinking? Thank God. Woo! Because I didn't know by her gestures. They were leaving me. Never mind. Day 191 in the classroom. We are on our 4 days off. We had 3 philosophical classrooms for 3 days. Hope I gave you something to think about. Thanks for joining me here in the classroom. Uh-oh, I can't see that. Where'd that go? Here we go. I say it again for a good close. Thanks for joining me here in the classroom. I F that up.